Hello. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Glad to have you on. Where are you tuning in from? I'd love to know whereabouts you're tuning in from today. And as you're joining today's meeting, oh my goodness, so much is happening in real estate. If you're like me, you might feel a little like this. I felt like this was a good summary of how I'm feeling about everything that is happening right now. I'm just kind of sitting back and I am watching things as they unfold. Perhaps you haven't heard the news. I'm going to briefly kind of go through it because I think it's important that we stay on top of what's happening. So the portal wars are at it again, and Zillow issued quite a compelling statement, and they said that, hey, if you are going to delay marketing of your listings, you will in effect be banned from Zillow. So any listing that is not put on the MLS within 24 hours will not appear on Zillow. Kind of a war against the real estate community, if you will. And this news spread like wildfire, not only through the real estate industry. So you have Housing Wire articles coming out, Inman articles coming out, but also a ton of other media outlets are picking up this story and running with it. This one was from Business Insider, and they focused pretty exclusively on Compass and what is happening with their exclusives platform. And they're kind of letting consumers know that, like, hey, like, you might not see all of the inventory on Zillow. You might not see all of the inventory on Redfin. Does this create a more competitive landscape? And some think it does, some think it doesn't. I'm curious what you think about all of this, but take a look at the Compass exclusive inventory. And in that article I just mentioned, the Business Insider article, Robert Refkin, the CEO of Compass, said that about half, so 50% of all of their sellers are taking advantage of their pre-marketing before going on MLS. So in essence, half of these listings would not appear on Zillow. Quite an impact, if you ask me, because that exposure that you get from Zillow is huge. It's ginormous. So look at Compass's inventory. Their exclusive inventory is just ticking up, kind of towards the top, the highest it has ever been. And we know that the Clear Cooperation ruling held, so NAR held the ruling, but they allowed for the pre-marketing, what I believe is just more choice for homeowners when they go to sell their home. And if you look at what's happening in the ecosystem of choice, and when it comes to selling your home, there are a variety of ways you can get it done now. And I saw this, this exclusives, this pre-marketing opportunity as the exception to the Clear Cooperation policy as being choice for homeowners. And we know that many were taking advantage of it, but check this out. This is juicy. You are now looking at a letter from the CEO of Homes.com, Andy Florence, and he issued a letter to agents in general. And this is meaty. I'm not going to read through all of it, but there are a couple points that I want to share. So he basically says, like, hey, whether or not you support the Clear Cooperation policy, it is never acceptable for a real estate portal to threaten agents this way. So he's coming at Zillow. He is attacking Zillow hard, basically saying that Zillow's lead diversion model, I like how he put that, their lead diversion model hijacks your hard-earned listings to generate commission splits for them and grow their brand at your expense. As a listing agent, you deserve clear, undisputed credit for your listings. When a buyer believes they are contacting the listing agent, that is exactly who they should reach. I don't necessarily disagree with that. How frustrating must it be for consumers, for home buyers, when they reach out to who they think is the listing agent and they get paired up with someone who is in fact not the listing agent? We know that is really frustrating. But what I really want to focus on is the call to arms that Andy Florence issues to agents, because at the very end, he has a PS, a postscript, which I'm still a big fan of the PS, but I do think it dates us just a little bit. What do you think? So he says, hey, PS, This is where it gets kind of crazy. If you feel Zillow's heavy-handed attempt to use their market power to force agents like you to list on Zillow within 24 hours is anti-competitive, you can let the DOJ know by clicking United States Department of Justice Antitrust Division. So he is, in essence, it's a call to arms to agents to report this to the DOJ as being a violation of antitrust. And on kind of in the same vein, there was a new appointee to the Department of Justice Antitrust Division, and this gentleman he's weighed in on a lot of the commission, the Sitzer Burnett. He weighed in on what he truly believed was the problem of the antitrust and how he did not believe it was necessarily the compensation share, but more or less the MLSs. And so here we are dealing with big data being syndicated, and it will impact all of us in the industry. We will wait and see how, but interesting to see Zillow come out and take a stand like this. As Andy Florence had mentioned, he believes that Zillow is hijacking your leads, that when a consumer clicks to be connected with the listing agent, that is exactly who they are expecting to get. And I want to resurface some recent data from 1000 Watt because it supports that claim. 3 in 4 online consumers are clueless how Zillow makes money. Look at this data from 1000 Watt. What they asked was were you aware that many real estate websites and apps take up to 40% of the money you pay for an agent you find and hire through their site/app? And 76% of those online consumers said they were completely unaware. They had no clue. And then when asked, what do you think of this practice? 40% said that they think it's deceptive. So they don't know what's happening. When a seller gets connected to that agent on that online site, they have no clue what's happening. And, I don't see this move by Zillow adding transparency to that. If anything, it will silo the listings. It's really fascinating to think about that we could kind of be taking a step backward from going on to a site and being able to see everything to now, if you're shopping for a home, going onto a site and only seeing a portion of the listings and then having to go onto a different site and then a different site, which again, the question is that a more competitive landscape? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comment. Would love to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking about all of this. And I want to kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about something else that's just, oh my goodness, a lot happening in real estate. And all of this tariff news is definitely impacting real estate. How? Well, we've seen the fallout of mortgage rates. We know that mortgage rates went down and then they went back up, and it seems very volatile. The 10-year is also very volatile right now. And how is this going to impact real estate? Well, one thing that I think is, just blatant is new construction costs. New construction costs will likely go up. I wanted to share the data that I had sourced from the Housing Market Index. It's a survey of home builders, and what they shared was that since December 2020, housing materials have went up 34%. So that has outpaced inflation. So housing materials are outpacing inflation already. And then the survey, the sentiment is that the tariffs will impact the cost of new construction by about $9,200 per home. So this could be good information for you to be sharing with your buyers that are potentially considering purchasing a home. They're considering maybe new construction. This could be a reason to lock in now because costs will likely be going up. Interesting, I'm hearing already that buyers, sellers are changing their mind, maybe staying put, maybe not making that decision because of all of the uncertainty. Has that impacted you yet? Has that impacted your business? Have you had a buyer who maybe was in the process and said, you know what, I'm going to wait? I'd love to hear from you on that. Have you had anyone say, I want to list my house, but man, it just doesn't seem like a good time. We're going to wait. Are you hearing any of that? Or on the flip side, are you working with a buyer who's like, we got to do something now? because they think that prices are going to go up. I'm a good testament of that. I recently made a purchase because I anticipate that the cost of that said purchase will be going up. And so I was like, okay, I got to do it now, kind of force my hand. It gave me that urgency, if you will, that I needed to make the decision and take action. So Brendan, in regards to the portal wars into Compass and the exclusivities, thinks that Compass is doing it wrong. A lot of folks agree with you on that, Brendan. It's just so fascinating to see this become such a big issue. I'm fascinated that it's becoming such a big issue now when the Department of Justice did kind of write that statement of interest in the Sitzer-Burnett settlement, and they came out and they basically said they took issue with the fact that homes had to be placed on the market right away. And so I think that Compass kind of seized onto that, and we know how that has settled down and panned out. So super interesting. But have you had a buyer stop the buying process or accelerate the buying process? Or have you had a seller, start that selling process, put the brakes on it, or accelerate that process? I'm curious. So Deborah had they had a buyer and they said they weren't going to be in the market for 4 to 5 months. Great to have that data to overcome their objections. Absolutely. Things will likely be a little bit more expensive. Now, what does that look like? Of course, we don't know. Nobody knows. If we had that crystal ball, I'm sure none of us would be doing what we're doing. The best that we can do is look to history, which is a great guide, but doesn't take into account the market unpredictabilities of today. So mortgage applications, this was for the week ending April 4th. So we know this data is a little bit delayed, and we know that there was a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the market last week, but the week prior to that, mortgage applications were up. They were up 20%, and you can see the week over week change. Previously, for the past 3 weeks, they had been down. It'll be really interesting to see what happens, what this data reveals for last week when that comes out. That'll come out later this week. But again, looking at the data that we do have, and we know that there was a spike in purchase applications. So what is that translating to in your market? Are you getting more buyer interest? Are you seeing more showings? What is that looking like for you? Housing inventory in general is rising. So here is a map of the US, and this shows the percentage change in housing inventory from pre-pandemic. So it's a shift. I'm sorry, this is a year-over-year shift. So from March 2024 to March 2025, this is a 1-year shift, and it's increasing. So I'm in the Phoenix market, and we had a 37% increase in inventory from last year to this year. So more homes on the market. I know that can be a good thing though, because at one point we had such critically low inventory that you take a buyer out shopping and hardly have anything to show them. And then of course, what is available oftentimes is a little bit lackluster. And so I think that, given the positive spin on this, there's more homes to choose from. So when you're working with buyers, they get to see more inventory. On the flip side, though, when we're taking those listings, having that pricing strategy in place prior to listing that home on the market is such a great idea. I want to share with you a win. We have a listing agent in Florida. Her name is Kim Donahue, and Kim has recently taken our resale marketing agreement that we have here as part of our buyer contracts, and it outlines a pricing schedule of reductions based on showings and based on days on market. And what she's done is incorporated that into her listing agreement. And so when she takes the typical listing to market now, she gets a commit in advance to have those pre-scheduled price reductions based on data, which I think is so beautiful, because when you base it off of data, it removes a lot of the emotions surrounding that. And she has that hard conversation up front, which will allow her to move her inventory, because you look in Florida, the average increase in inventory across Florida for the past year is a 34% increase. There's definitely more homes on the market in Florida. I think a few weeks ago, Florida had an all-time high amount of inventory. And so having that schedule, that pricing schedule as part of your listing agreement, I think is just such a it's such a competitive edge. It really helps you position that property properly, and knowing that you'll be able to get those pre-scheduled price reductions based on the actual amount of showings and feedback. So really cool. That was a super cool win. Wanted to share. NAR recently released their national housing forecast, and it's shifted a little bit. And what they're predicting for 2025 is that we're going to have about 6% more existing home sales. So last year we were at 4.06 million home sales, existing home sales. And so they're predicting that we're going to have just a little bit more. Now, one thing that does not get asterisked, underscored, highlighted often enough, I believe, is the fact that you look at our home sales last year, and you got to go all the way back to 1995 to have a year with that low of home sales. So 1995, I'm like, what was I doing in 1995? I was a sophomore in high school. I had just got my first job at a yogurt store. It was Swirling Yogurt. And, you know, the population of the US was much lower. And that's what doesn't get talked about often enough, is that the amount of home sales for the population at the time in 1995, our population was much lower. We were about 60 million fewer US people than we are now. And so if you look at that population gain from 1995 to today, what you know is that home sales are so super low. We are just bare minimum. You know, when we talk about the 5 Ds of home selling, right? Like death, divorce, diapers, debt, downsizers. When you talk about those 5 Ds of sellers, really that is who's selling right now. And not a whole lot of folks that don't fit into one of those buckets. So the amount of home sales, I think last year was kind of like our floor. I really just don't see home sales going down. Neither does NAR. They think that we're gonna have a few more, not many, 6%. The new home sales, they're anticipating 10% increase in new home sales. You know, that makes sense. I think that builders are doing a lot to get their homes sold. And if you've recently sold a home to a buyer, if you've sold a new build home to a buyer, you know that you're probably getting maybe an increased commission. You're probably, the buyers may be getting like a buy down. They're maybe getting more incentives. They're, just enjoying a really great package of incentives to draw them in and get them to buy the home. One thing that concerns me, I think, with these new home sales, especially the rate buy downs, is what happens if rates don't go down? What happens if we're kind of in a new normal? And 2 years from now, all these folks can't refi into a lower rate, and they're now stuck in this home. They're unable to refi. I don't know. It's just a scenario that I think of a lot, because I think that maybe folks are going to be in trouble. They're not going to be able to afford the recast mortgage once that rate adjusts. But kick the can down the line and we'll see what that looks like then. But for now, we are forecasting more home sales. Median home price, modest increase, 3%. Mortgage rate, an average of 6.4, and look at what they're predicting for 2026, 6.1. So they're not really coming out and saying like, hey, we're going to be back in the 5s. They're still in the 6s. Job gains, they're predicting quite an increase next year. Look at that, 2.4. Yes, Deborah, I absolutely can share the resale marketing agreement, and I know they do need to qualify on that higher rate, but in actuality, are people truly prepared for that? I've also been seeing some horror stories about people in certain markets, like in Texas, where they purchased, and when they purchased that new construction, the taxes were assessed at a super low amount, likely just the land amount, and then when it recast, it was just sticker shock. So I get it, lots of factors playing into this. But absolutely, I will absolutely share that resale marketing agreement. In fact, if I can pull it up now, I will do that and see if I can get that up for us really quickly. It is such a cool tool. And as I mentioned, you can really use this and drive better, listing provisions. So let's see. Okay, I'm pulling it up right now, and I'll share the PDF of this with you as well, so you've got it. But this is the agreement. So let me take a step back. when you do a cash offer through Zoodealio, that has one of the structured sale components. And so the cash plus offer, or the cash plus with repairs, which we had previously referred to as the fix it and list it, or a sell now, move later offer, all of those have two payouts to the home seller. They get that first payout when the buyer purchases their home, and then they get a second payout when you sell the home on the open market. And when that home gets put on the open market, the buyer and you and the seller all sign this resale marketing plan to kind of lay out the framework of what the expectations are going to be during that listing period. And so a lot of these things, you're already doing in your business. You're already doing property presentation. You're already doing a wonderful listing strategy, marketing strategy, all of that. But the part that has been very useful, as I mentioned, Kim Donahue integrated this into her listing agreement, was this part right here. And let me see if I can blow this up a little. And this is a price reduction schedule, right? So we all know that if you're not getting showings, typically something needs to happen, and if we can't adjust for condition, we need to adjust for price. And so basically this will give you a framework of taking those price reductions on a time-driven basis. So every 2 weeks, if there are 0 to 7 showings, a reduction happens between 3.25% and 5.5%. If you have between 8 and 15 showings, it's a little bit less of a reduction, etc. So this is that framework that you can really insert into your listing agreement to help you get those price reductions ahead of time, so that when the house is on the market, you're not kind of having that conversation every 2 to 3 weeks and just really, if you're like me, sometimes dreading those conversations, right? Just have it up front, like preload all of that work, so that way, you can make the appropriate shifts in that positioning of that property prior to, having those weekly or bi-weekly conversations. So cool. It was a cool piece of feedback that we received. So let me go ahead, and I'm just going to share this actually in the chat right now. Okay, I'm going to put this in the link, and then I'm going to put this link in the chat. And of course, if you would like to modify this document to make it your own, this is a Google Doc. And so you only will have viewing permissions, but you can just make a copy of it. So if you make a copy of it, then you can modify this document to your heart's content. All right, so there is that. And Ellen, I just dropped that in the chat. So if you just grab that link, you'll be able to grab it right there. And again, you can make a copy of it and then edit it to your heart's content. So I hope that really helps you, because, it's tough. It's tough taking that listing and then servicing that listing, and then making sure that you're checking in and following up and giving feedback and updating on your marketing efforts. And then, of course, getting those price reductions. And so I think that this is something that could absolutely help. All right. I want to share the top 10 cash offer markets for last week. Las Vegas is back at number 1. It bumped down for a couple weeks, but it's back at number 1. Houston was number 2. Atlanta was number 3. Dallas, number 4. San Jose, 5. Phoenix, 6. Richmond, Virginia, coming in at 7. Tampa, Florida, at 8. Denver, Colorado, at 9. And Charlotte, North Carolina, was number 10 for last week. We have strong offer activity happening all across the U.S., and these were those top 10 markets. I want to take a moment though and ask you for some feedback. I'm going to ask you for some feedback here. All right. So what you are looking at now is our offers display in the agent backend. So we are redesigning this. We had recently launched a new design, and we got feedback that it was a little confusing. And so because of that, we are redesigning this. And I have 3 different options that I'm going to share with you right now. And I would just love your quick feedback on which one makes the most sense, which one is easiest for you to read, which one is easiest for you to understand. And each of the options are option 1, 2, or 3. And so I would love, after you have seen these, if you would just drop your feedback in the chat for me. So drop a 1, a 2, or a 3 in the chat for me and give me your feedback on which display is easiest for you to understand. So this is of course just for you. So this is just in the agent backend. So this is not what the seller sees. This is what you see. And this is the offer display. Now, keep in mind, all of these numbers are just dummy numbers. In fact, you'll see that there are no fees in any of the numbers, but we just are looking for feedback from you on the actual design. So the first one is it shows the cash plus offer. It shows you when it expires, and then it gives an offer breakdown. And you'll see the offer breakdown includes the fees. Your agent compensation is highlighted at the bottom, and that number again is only visible to you. So this is option 1. Now, I'm going to be real with you. There's just slight variations between options 1, 2, and 3. And so you might look at these and not see a ton of difference, but there are some slight differences. And so we're just looking for which one just really speaks to you, which one is the clearest. So I just flashed up option 2. And as you'll see from option 2, really the biggest difference is there's no line between the expiry and offer breakdown is removed, right? So there's option 2 for you. Again, just looking for like what option really just makes most sense to you and which looks the best. Okay, now I'm going to share with you option 3. All right, now there is option 3, little bit different because we now also have the line back, but that word offer breakdown is gone. And so you've got the 3 options in front of you now. As you're looking at these, which one do you think is the most clear? 1, 2, or 3? And I love your feedback. You can, whoops, I'm going to go back. Sorry about that. You should have it back in front of you, the 3 different options. Again, just looking for your feedback. Okay, we've got 3, 1, 1. Okay, cool. Leading towards 1. So 1 seems to be very popular. And 3. All right, so I'm thinking like we like the line. We like the line. 1, there's another 1. Okay, cool. Thank you so much just for giving me that quick kind of like gut check feedback. It seems like that you like the line between the offer and the breakdown amount, which is cool. You do like, Kevin says he likes the offer breakdown statement. Okay, good, great feedback. Penny also likes number 1. Hi, Penny. Glad to have you on today. Okay, cool. Again, just looking for your quick feedback. We're redesigning this. We want it to be clear. I have another question for you. So on the agent compensation, that is included in the resale fee. So when the resale fee is displayed, that will include your compensation. And we pulled it out and put it down at the bottom because we wanted it to be really clear to you what the compensation is to you on this offer. Keep in mind, compensation is always negotiable. You can charge more, you can discount, you can do whatever you want with that, but that is what is already a part of the offer. And so I'm curious on the agent compensation bit on the bottom of each offers. On number 2, we have highlighted that the compensation comes out of the resale fee. Do you think that's necessary? Or will it just be understood that it's part of that? So another part that I'm looking for feedback on. So Kayla, great name, love it. Okay, so you think, yes, it's necessary. Kevin says it's necessary. So do include that compensation that comes out of the resale fee. Okay, I love it. So here's the thing, Deborah, I think it is necessary. In fact, someone was watching the replay, Trisha in Florida. So if you're watching again, thank you so much, Trisha. And I had went through the changes that we've made to the offers page. So let me just pop into it live so you can see what I'm talking about now. So I went through these changes live on a coaching call a couple weeks ago, and she gave me a ton of feedback. And she's like, actually, like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm confused. You know, is there anything you could do to make this better? And so we did. We went back to the drawing board and, you know, made it more clear. So let me find one that this is part of. So this is just my demo account. So we're not looking at like real, we're not looking at real offers like with real leads or anything. This is just all kind of dummy data, or maybe people that follow me that have put their address in my site to see what the experience looks like. So this was this is how it looks right now. And it was really confusing how the commission was kind of at the top. She didn't quite get that sort of thing. And so we're just trying to make this definitely more clear. So definitely include that compensation. But okay, cool, great. I'm getting the feedback that I need. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. I want to share also that selling my house, the search term, it continues to trend at all-time highs. A couple weeks ago, we were already at an all-time high and it surpassed that. And so folks are getting impatient, sitting put. They're ready to make a move. They're ready to do something different. And perhaps due to all the uncertainty, they're just not taking action right now. But we know based on their digital body language, based on what they're typing into Google, we know that they're considering it. They're looking for ways to sell their home. And I want to just highlight again the open door margin on the cash offer. I look at this every month or so. This is data pulled from DataDoor, and DataDoor tracks what Open Door charges based on what they buy and what they sell at. And so it's their margin. Now, I love to highlight two things. Their service fee is not part of that margin. We know that Open Door charges a service fee. Typically, it's 5%. Also, we know that when a buyer or when Open Door purchases a home from a seller, that they will negotiate something as a credit in lieu of repairs during the inspection period. And so that, again, is not reflective in their margin. So I think it's important to note those, because you got this service fee, which is 5%, and you've got this credit that they negotiate during the inspection period, which is probably on average, if they publish the data, we'd be looking at anywhere from 1% to 2%. And so right there, you can take 5 to 7% and you can add it to this embedded margin. And that is in effect what you're looking at in order to get an Open Door cash offer. So in March, it did go up a little bit. It's at 15%. Open Door's they're in some trouble. Their stock is trending right around $1. It did go below $1. And what we know is if it stays under $1 for more than 6 months, they run the risk of being delisted. Probably won't happen. They'll probably do some sort of reverse stock split so that they can avoid that outcome. We could also see, in fact, I keep waiting for the news of Zillow to acquire Open Door or something like that, because I just think that they're struggling. And what we know is that they need to make more margin on cash offers in order to be profitable. And we can kind of see that recently it's trending up. So it was 15% in March, and add those extra fees on there, and you're looking at a pretty big discount to get that cash offer. Open Door also recently released a survey result, and one of the things that I found fascinating is they surveyed home sellers, and they asked home sellers, basically, how much would you be willing to give up for the convenience and certainty of that cash offer? And 65% of sellers were willing to give up 20% of their equity. What does that look like? What is the true cost of a 20% discount on the median priced home in your market? Well, simply look at the map, find your state, and that dollar amount represents what a 20% discount on a median priced home would be. So I'm in the Phoenix market, and for us here in Phoenix, it's $88,600. That's a lot of cash. That's a lot of coin. And we also know that the cash offer conversation is front and center to folks that are considering selling their home. And something else that Open Door revealed recently that I don't want to get lost on us, because this is so important, is that when the seller doesn't accept that cash offer, it does not mean it's a no. It just means it's a not now. And the reason I share this is because this stresses the importance of follow-up of all things, right? We know that follow-up is so important, but following up with the cash offer is even more important. Opendoor said that 70% of their 2024 acquisitions, they purchased about 15,000 homes. 70% of all of those were from sellers that did not accept the first offer, but they accepted a refreshed offer, so a subsequent offer. To me, this is so powerful and really just shows us exactly what we need to be doing in our business to stay in front of folks that are looking for cash offers. And it's really simple. You can truly keep your cash offers in front of that homeowner with the home report. So if you're not using the home report, you are missing out. Also, if you're not using the home report, I want to introduce you to a new kind of ideology in using it, and that would be as a digital farm. A digital farm of people, just like in the past, or maybe you still do geographical farming, neighborhood farming, very effective. I love it. But this is just another kind of tool that you can use in your business that I think gives you a lot of intelligence. It allows you to make really focused follow-ups and convert more sellers to listings. So I'm going to pop back into Zoodealio right now. And I want to just take a moment and show you exactly what I mean by this. So actually back up. Let's do one thing first. First, I want to show you the power of the math. So this is just the math on why this works and how you can truly add a targeted list to your home report and really just follow up with those folks. And based on what actions they take in your home report, you call them, you follow up, you engage with them, and then ultimately you convert the listing. So this is a calculator, and it's a database size calculator. So I'm curious, how many folks do you have in your database? Drop it in the chat. Do you have 300 people in your database? Do you have 100 people in your database? Do you have 700 people in your database? How many people are in your database? So typically what we hear is that, Brian's got 30,000 people. So this is what my preset is at. That's a ton of folks. You have got to be on the upper end of that database size. We typically hear around 500. So Penny's got 350. We typically hear around the 500. Ellen has 379. Super specific. You must have just checked that. Okay, so typically around 500. 30,000 is super high, but typically around 500. But I want to show you the power of what it would look like if you could really amplify your database. Brian, you're there, and I hope you're already using the home report, and I hope you're already following up on those touch points, which I'm going to share exactly what that looks like and how to do it here in just a moment. So let's just take, for example, 1,000 folks. So I'm going to change this database size from 30 to 1,000, and we're going to update it. And let's just make some assumptions. Let's just assume that the average commission that you're going to make or that these sales are going to transact at is 2.5% on the list side and 2.5% on the buy side. And we're going to take a median sales price of $434. So you could outperform this, right? I mean, easily you could definitely outperform this. Maybe you're an expert at getting 3s and above. Maybe your average purchase price is $750. But for today's conversation and for showing you the power of the numbers, we're going to go with really conservative numbers and look at how this impacts, your business. So database size of 1,000. Basically, based on the math, based on that turnover rate which is very low right now, very, very low right now, of 4.5% turnover rate. What that means is out of 1,000 people, there will be 73 sales. So that is going to equate to 60% listings and 40% buy sides. So total is 73 sales. Now, what we know is that based on those numbers over that course of a year, you're looking at 2 cash closings. So that's just based on data, based on the math. And on the home report, if you take an open rate of 25% and an engagement rate from that open rate, which is really low, of only 40, basically you're going to be served up 250 leads. Of those 250 leads, 100 of them are going to be hot, and 6 of them will be listings. Now, will you convert each and every one? I don't know, that's up to you. This is yours for the taking, but then there will also, in addition, be an extra 3 buy-side closings. So there's a total of 9 units in that 1,000-person database. And the commission on that would be $106,000. So your path to adding $100,000 to your bottom line really exists in a database size of 1,000. Okay, so imagine you want to amplify this, and imagine you want to digitally farm an area. I mean, Brian, if you're on the home report and you're engaging the folks that are engaging with the report, really all you have to do is sit back, dedicate, maybe that's 2 hours of time every day to really follow up and nurture the folks that are engaging with your home report. But you really just get to sit back and you're in control of your business, you're in control of your day, and you get to take the actions that are going to push your business forward just based on the nurturing of the home report to those folks. And as I just showed, Open Door has already told us that, hey, most people that request a cash offer don't take the first one, right? Like 7 out of 10 of the folks that take the cash offer do it down the line. They do it after the first offer. So they accept the third one or the fourth one or the fifth one or the sixth one. Open Door doesn't tell us which one, but they tell us that they don't take the first one, they take a refreshed one. And I think that that's so important for us with the home report to recognize that those cash offers will now be displayed again and again and again. And so that homeowner can see this compelling value proposition over time and think of you. And then when you couple that with picking up the phone or texting, or maybe you have a Facebook relationship with them, whatever method of communication you're using with that client amplifies the power of the technology in that infinite nurture cycle. So I'm going to switch back to Zoodealio, and I'm just going to real quick show that home report and exactly, what I mean by these cash offers continually coming up over and over and over again. And you're also going to see that we've made some enhancements to the home report. So coming out very soon, you're going to see some updates to this, enhancements to this. Something super cool is coming. I can't talk about it yet, but our head of product, Noah, this kid is, I call him a kid. I think he's 24 now, but anyway, still a kid to me. When he first started working with Zoodealio, he was employee number 1. He first started working with us. He is just brilliant. And now he leads our product team. He leads our team of developers. And he's created something that is so cool, so engaging. That's coming. So we're making updates and innovations on this because we want it to be fresh. So when the homeowner opens it, they're seeing something different. We're also pulling the cash offers up a little bit more towards the front because we know that that's a value proposition they're really looking for. But again, every month they get to see their cash offers over and over and over again, and they get to see those in real time, how they track, how they change. And hey, they can also come in here and they can engage with the AI. They can ask, hey, how does the cash offer compare to my real value? And the neat thing is the AI is trained on the data set for that individual. And so it's going to be able to source data on that home, on that house, and provide accurate real-time feedback on how those offers really do compare. So here's one that says your cash plus offer matches your real value, while the other offers may vary. So another thing that we love about the AI is if there's engagement with the AI, it's going to direct them back to you. So if they ask some questions about agents and that sort of thing, it's going to serve you up as that agent. In fact, I'll just, for fun, who's a good agent? And folks probably wouldn't directly ask that question, but this is just demonstration purposes. I just want to show you that it's going to tell them you right? It's going to say, hey, like a good agent for you is Kayla. Here's her phone number. Here's her email. If you want to schedule a meeting through her Calendly, you can do that here. Super easy for you to integrate these things. You just do this in your settings. You can add your calendar link. You can add your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, so that they can click off to all those different things. These are all little hyperlinks that it's serving up. So here's the beauty of what's happening every time a homeowner takes an action on this, is we're capturing it. We're capturing it and we're reporting it back to you. And so you really now have this insane ability to, you're stalking their digital body language. I mean, like, let's just be real. It gives you that sixth sense, if you will, into what they're thinking about their home selling journey, right? So for instance, let's say they're in here and they're playing with their rental calculator. That is going to be captured. Anything that they do on here is going to be captured and then displayed back to you. So I want to show you what that looks like in your dashboard. So we're going to go back into our agent dashboard. And recently we've launched this notifications tab. So the notifications tab is your running tally of anything that is happening in your home report, on your account, in your offer dashboards. It's going to keep just a complete comprehensive list of all of those different actions and everything that is happening. So as we're looking at this, it can be a lot. Especially if you have a lot of folks deployed on the home report, you could have a lot of notifications in here. So I want to show you how easy it is for you to filter these notifications and really pull out, extract what's important to you. So, okay, let's say I'm coming in and my goal for the next 2 hours, I just arrived at my desk because I'm old school and I still go to a physical office to work. And so I just arrived at my desk and I'm ready to go. I'm going to pull up my notifications tab and I'm going to follow up with everybody that has engaged with my home report over the past week. How am I going to do that? I'm going to pull the notifications tab up. I'm going to come over here to filters. I'm going to click filters. And now I'm going to filter the notifications by different things. So let's say I want to filter the home report by anyone who has had a conversation with the AI. I just click that and I hit apply. And now it's going to pull up anyone that has had a conversation with the AI. So I can come to this first one here and I can click this and it's going to pull me right into that client details page. When it does, I'm just going to go down to the home report section and I'm going to click over to this AI Insights tab, and it's going to show me exactly what that homeowner asked the AI. And in this situation, they asked the AI, how is my real value calculated? And so they're looking at that top value and they're curious about it. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to the client and I'm going to have a conversation based on the engagement they just took. Now, there's a lot of different containers in that home report, and there's a lot of different things that that individual could be doing. And so what we've also created is we've created a guide for you in follow-up, kind of like best practices or what to say based on what they've done in your home report. So let me pull that up next so I can show you that. Okay, so now on the screen, you should see the home report engagement scripts. And again, there's several different containers. There's a lot of things that folks can do in that home report. And so in this specific scenario, the real value was adjusted, or they asked a question around the real value. And so you can come in here and what you can say is you could follow up with them and just say, hey, how open would you be to seeing how buyers in your area are reacting to homes that are priced similar to your real value? It's just an opener. It's just a way for you to start the conversation. And what I love about this is it just puts you in that position of follow-up. It puts you in a position of building trust, not only through the technology, but because you're picking up the phone and you're having that conversation with them. Like, I know that in this age of AI and in this age of automation and in this age of all things digital, it's easy to think that like, wow, like could the home selling journey, could the home buying journey be replaced by AI? And the answer is no. Because see, people still want a human. They still want someone to talk through the messy life situations that they're often going through, especially in today's market. In today's market, where most people that are moving because of one of the 5 Ds that we just covered a little bit ago, and things are messy, and they want your guidance. They want your attention, your care, your empathy. And so these are just ways, openers, if you will, for you to reach out and engage with them based on whatever they've done in the home report. So they could edit their real value, they could edit their home equity. Maybe they are looking at the historical value of their home. Maybe they're viewing different cash offers. Maybe they're looking at the market overview and they're editing the overview. Maybe they're adding another zip code. Maybe they're using the rent versus sell calculator. Whatever they're doing, we have this resource for you to make a phone call, pick up the phone, send a text message, send a Facebook message. However you best communicate with that client, you're going to know best. And just have a conversation, have a reach out. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Okay, Brian has a question. When I click on view my report with the AI home report, it gets logged at a site visit by the prospect. Will there be a page or be a way to look at the page without creating an alert? So Brian, when you click that, yeah, okay, I know. So basically when you go to the home report, you're getting a text message saying that so-and-so has viewed their report. Yes, we are working on an update to bypass the alert from being sent out when that happens. So good catch. And yes, we are working on that. So I'm going to drop this as well in the chat for you. So you have these resources. Again, it's just going to be a Google Drive link. If you want to edit this, do whatever you want with it, you can. You're just going to need to make a copy of this document. And then once you make a copy of it, you will be able to do whatever editing you would like. Okay, Brian said there's a lot of fluff in those numbers. Your personal database is closer to 1,000. Okay, but what I am going to just definitely want feedback from you on is what is your engagement like with the folks that are just the fluff? And how are you able to reinvigorate those leads as opportunities so that you can really put yourself in more home selling, home buying conversations? Because that is what this is all about. And what we really believe is that you can digitally farm those folks and send out your home report and engage with the people that are taking actions on that home report. So you're in more intelligent opportunities than just then throwing a dart at a wall, right? So I'll be curious how yours performs. You'll have to keep us updated. Again, just another way for you to really enhance your bottom line. I look at it as a complete no-brainer. If I could have 1,000 folks in there, and if over the course of a year, that would translate into over 6 figures of commission income opportunity for me, like that is a no-brainer. Like, let's do it. Let's smash it. If you're not on the home report, I'm going to highly encourage you to get your database on it. The people that are requesting cash offers from you, they want to see this. And just like Open Door, they may not take that first cash offer, but they're really likely to accept a refreshed one. Appreciate you all being here with me today. I appreciate your time. I hope that you have an amazing week, and I'll see you back here in a couple weeks. Have a wonderful day.